Hi, welcome back to Ocean Yumi's channel. Tonight, I'm going to cover another tragedy. Hopefully, everything will be working in favor of this young man that I got cover because, it's another sad one. Sorry, I keep making morbid videos. I'm sorry, I can't help it. Some things you need to bring to light. Today is about Emmitt Till. Emmitt Till. Emmitt Till. Emmitt Till, because somebody else spoke about it, so I went and I know about the story already, but it's always good to refresh your mind. And there's a little more footage of like his cousin who gives his account on what happened the night he died. I'm gonna pull a little bit of introduction to who he was as a 14-year-old boy. He seemed like a very happy-go-lucky child, and it was very tragic what happened to him. His mother is a very, very, very brave woman. That's all I can say. She's a very brave woman. And for her to do what she did with her son's casket says a lot about her, because she wanted to show how they hurt her son. And in all the accounts what I've seen, particularly all the documentaries, you get an idea of how the tension. The place where he died was Mississippi. And Mississippi is really known for racism, really known, even till this day. There's been loads of other murders around there, even in recent times. Some similar to Emmitt Till's. One that did happen. I think, can't remember how, not that long ago or a while ago, was that young boy that got taken, or on a Halloween night. When they found his body, his face was all messed up and looking a certain way too. Very similar to Emmitt Till. Another one that also something happened to him. I think it was the same place, same state. They found him wrapped up in the gym, wrapped up in I think it's the mats. So it's ongoing. It's ongoing. Honestly, it's ongoing. Today, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show if the computer or the laptop behaves accordingly and it doesn't knock me out. A video of the cousin talking, because they literally talk about what happened the night. There's also a little small adaptation of what happened the night that Emmitt Till died. On top of that, the men got off. On top of that, again, the woman, she said she lied, but then she got no repercussion. She lived her time out to how long? She's still around, probably still around now, living her life. He died at 14. He didn't even have a chance to live his life because he was a little bit naive. He moved differently. He came from Chicago with a different mindset to the people in Mississippi. And then he got the consequences because he whistled at a white woman. And where he was, they wasn't happy. And they went in the night I went and picked him up from out of his bed, from what his cousin said, and he never came back. And then I think after a while they found his body in a pond over like thrown over a bridge. Anyways, I'm gonna show this one of the cousin giving his explanation about it because he was there. So I'm gonna turn off my mic. So I'm going to show that what the cousin had to say before I go to the articles and pictures and all that, so you can get a clear idea of how horrible a crime this was towards a young boy who was very naive, you know, but seemed a very happy-go-lucky boy at the same time. So I'm going to do this now.
On August 21st, 1955, two teenagers from Chicago boarded a train and traveled south to visit family in Mississippi.
We was going on there to pick some kiting because I never picked any kiting before. And I was looking forward to do that because I had told my mother that I could pick 200 pounds. And she told me I could, you know. So we was going on there to look for a good time, you know.
For more than a year, racial tensions in the South had been higher than usual, since the Supreme Court ruled in Brown versus Board of Education that segregated schools were unconstitutional. The decision touched a raw nerve in the white South, and many organized to preserve white supremacy. For years, groups like the Ku Klux Klan practiced terrorism. Despite national black protests, public murders of blacks were common, and the mobs who committed them went unpunished. In the previous 70 years, there had been more than 500 documented lynchings in Mississippi alone. Coming from Chicago, Curtis Jones and his cousin Emmitt Till had little sense of the world they were entering when they arrived in Money, Mississippi.
Emmitt Till was, at the time, he was 14 years old. Had just graduated out of grammar school. He had some picture of some white kids that he had graduated from. That was, you know, female and male. So he told the boys down there, you know, they got around the store. This must have been around about maybe 10 to 12, you know, youngsters around there, that the girls was his girlfriend, you know. So one of the local boys said, hey, there's a girl in that store there, so I bet you want to go in there and talk to her, you know. So he went in there to, you know, get some candy. So when he was leaving out the store, after buying the candy, he told us, say, bye, baby. And the next thing I knew, one of the boys came up to me and say, man, you got a crazy cousin. He just went in there and said bye to that white woman. And that's when this man I was playing checker with, this older man, I guess he must have been around about 60 or 70, he jumped straight up and said, boy, say, y'all about to get out of here. Say, that lady come out of that store and blow y'all brains off.
This is Mose Wright. I am the uncle of Emmitt Till. Sunday morning, about 2:30, someone called at the door. And I said, who is it? And he said, this is Mr. Brian. I want to talk with you and the boy. And when I opened the door, there was a man standing with a pistol in one hand and a flashlight in the other hand. And he asked me, did I have two boys there from Chicago? I told him I have. And he said, I want the boy that done all that talk. They marched him to the car and they asked someone there, was this is the right boy? And the answer was, yes. And they drove toward money.
4 days later, Emmitt Till's body was found in the Tallahatchie River.
The body was so badly damaged that we couldn't hardly just tell who he was, but he happened to have on a ring with his initial, and that cleared it up.
The body was shipped home, back north to Chicago, where Mamie Till Bradley insisted on an open casket funeral. So all the world can see, she said, what they did to my boy.
Oh, pilgrim of sorrow, and I'm left in this old wide world.
Jet magazine showed Till's corpse, beaten, mutilated, shot through the head. An entire generation of young black people would remember the horror of that photo.
No, for tomorrow.
Roy Bryant, husband of the woman in the store, and J.W. Milam, her brother-in-law, were arrested for the murder of Emmitt Till. The trial was held in nearby Sumner, Mississippi. Black organizations like the NAACP and the Black Press worked especially hard to keep the case in the news, to make an example of Southern racism for the world.
I had covered the courts in many areas of this country, but the Till case was unbelievable. I mean, I just didn't get the sense of being in a courtroom. It was, first place, segregated. The Black press sat at a bridge table far off from the court, and the boy's mother came down. They sat her there at the bridge table with us.
What do you intend to do here today?
To answer any questions that the attorneys might ask me to answer. To the
how
best.
Do you think that? How do you think you could possibly be a help to them?
I don't know. I mean, just by answering whatever questions that they ask me.
I see. Do you have any evidence bearing on this case?
I do know that this is my son.
The defense argued that the body found tied to the cotton gin fan in the river was so disfigured that it could not be identified as Emmitt Till. The trial took 5 long, hot days. The prosecution's star witness was Till's uncle, Mose Wright, who testified despite threats to his life.
He was called upon to, could he see anybody in the courtroom, identify anybody in that courtroom that had come to his house that night and got the Emmitt Till out. He stood up, and there was a tension in the courtroom. And he says, in his broken language, "Dar he."
Dar he, there he is.
I really didn't realize how brave my grandfather Mose Wright was, But after I got older, I realized that he was a brave man. He was a mighty brave man to travel back down there, among all those hostile peoples and testify and get him up in court and point his finger at a white man and accuse him of murder.
As the trial ended, a defense lawyer told the jury he was, quote, sure every last Anglo-Saxon one of you has the courage to free these men. It took the jury an hour to find the men not guilty. Months later, for a fee of $4,000, Roy Bryant and J.W. Milam told their story to reporter William Bradford Huey.
Milam was startled at the belligerent attitude or the fact that young Till didn't appear to be afraid of him. Now, he'd gone and gotten him out of bed and had him in the back of a truck. And young Till never realized the danger he was in. I'm quite sure that he never thought these two men would kill him. And, or maybe he's just in such a strange environment. He just doesn't know what he's up against. And it seems, to a rational mind today, it seems impossible that they could have killed him. But J.W. Milam looked up at me and said, well, when he told me about this white girl he had, he says, my friend, that's what this war is about down here now. He says, that's what we got to fight to protect. And he says, I just looked at him and I said, boy, you ain't going to never see the sun come up again.
I believe that the whole United States is mourning with me. And if the death of my son can mean something to the other unfortunate people all over the world, then for him to have died a hero would mean more to me than for him just to have died.
So there is another video of the cousin. He was a witness to the men coming to his house. Apparently, when the two men, Bright, entered the house, they went upstairs, or I think in the bungalow, where it was, and they came into the house. They went to the cousin's bed first, and then they said something to the cousin, and then they told Emmitt Till to get dressed. So the cousin thought the next day he will see his cousin come back, which never happened. So I'm going to see if I can find the cousin, because he's really the witness to all this as well. Otherwise, it would have been him and his cousin that would have been dead, But Tuesday, Emmitt Till whistled at the woman, so they came looking specifically for him. So I'm going to find the cousin's account. So this is the cousin's account now. Oh, it's doing that foolishness again. Hold on. Apologies. The thing just seems to, like, I tap it too hard, it goes a bit funny. So let me find it again. Right, I'm gonna try not to mess up. Oh, because I did it that way. Oh, so I see what's going on. Yeah, I see what.
If these walls could talk, would they scream in terror? Or cry out in desperation? Or would they just fall silent in fear? These are the last walls Emmitt Till saw in the barn down on the old Sheridan plantation, a place that still echoes with the horror of a hot August night. Where a kid from Chicago found himself facing the most brutal type of backwoods justice. His family called him Bobo, 14 years old, husky, with a bit of a stutter. He'd begged his single mom to let him come to Mississippi in the summer of 1955 to visit his country cousins.
First day he talked about Chicago. Oh, he told me some stuff you probably didn't know about. Riverview Park. Have you ever been there? Oh. Now you got to imagine me in the cotton fields listening to a story about an amusement park that lodge. I just couldn't believe that.
Emmitt was a storyteller and a jokester. But for all his street smarts, Simeon Wright found his older cousin could be naive. Emmitt didn't know there's certain things he couldn't say and couldn't do.
No, I don't think so. He didn't know anything about the mores of the South. We didn't. We lived here. We didn't know. We didn't know about lynching.
In the Jim Crow South, African Americans were under attack. In Mississippi alone, more than 500 lynchings were documented between the late 1800s and 1955, the year Emmitt Till and his cousins took a ride down to Bryant's grocery store. Now, this is the part of the story everyone thinks they know. But Simeon Wright was actually with Emmitt Till when Carolyn, the young wife of store owner Roy Bryant, stepped outside.
And she was going to a car for something. We don't know what.
And where were you?
Standing right beside Emmitt, outside the door there. And
that's when you heard him whistle?
Yeah. And oh my goodness.
The boys had gone down to the store at the crossroads known as Money, Mississippi, just for some candy and pop. Over the years, history is clouded over what happened inside the shop, whether Emmitt really did try to flirt with Carolyn Bryant. But Simeon Wright heard his cousin whistle at the young woman.
That scared us half to death.
Why?
Oh my goodness. Listen, a white woman in Mississippi? Oh. No, it's better to play with a rattlesnake.
What'd you tell him?
We didn't have time to tell him anything. He saw our reaction, it scared him. We ran to the car. We got out of town as fast as we could.
Did you know there was going to be trouble after?
I figured if we had gotten caught, they had caught up with us that night, they would have whipped us. But murder never crossed my mind. Never thought that he would be killed for that.
The boys bailed out of their car and ran into the fields to hide. But trouble didn't follow that day, or for 3 days after. By Saturday, the boys had all but forgotten their fear. Until late in the night, when pounding at the door woke them from a sound sleep.
And when I opened my eyes, I saw 2 white men standing at the foot of my bed. I recognized one, Roy Bryant, the husband to Carolyn Bryant, but the big guy, the bully, the guy with the gun, Milam. He ordered me to lay back down, and he made Emmitt get up and put his clothes on. Then my mother came in there. She began to beg and plead with them, and offer them money. And
she offered them money?
Yes, to leave him alone. Roy Bryant hesitated. J.W. Myler, he didn't.
Money wasn't going to be enough.
Money wasn't going to stop him.
The men took Emmitt away down Dark Fear Road. What were you thinking? Your cousin was taken from right next to you.
Well, they said they were going to bring him back. So I laid there in shock all night. Every car that would come by, I hear that sound, they're bringing him back. But when the sun came up, I knew then that they wasn't going to bring him back.
So that was the cousin's account of what happened the night. And funny enough, that same shed is still standing there. The land has grown, it's a little bit greener now. And I think they was doing tours there, and, you know, at that same barn. They put up a memorial for him, and the memorial was getting shut up. It had over 100 bullets in the memorial itself. Students taking pictures of themselves near his memorial. They had to put a bulletproof memorial up in Mississippi. Mississippi is one of the most racist states around about them times. As you saw, clear examples, lynchings was happening. There was loads of stuff. So I think when you see certain programs, it's never that far from the truth. And there's also a video of 2 youngsters carrying the memorial plaque of Emmitt Till. And because it was riddled with gunshots, they take it and they put it near a Confederate statue, you know, because of the times it was set in. So those times, which what I highlighted, and I wasn't very clear on certain things because I got pulled up on the slave patrol thing, and I, you know, deleted it because I took into effect what was said. But with all that said, with all the monstrosities that happened during them times, where you were never free, you know, you wasn't a free person. You weren't allowed to be free. You know, if you rebel, they burn crosses on the front of your lawn. They stand up hooded and all that. Lots of stuff will be happening. So this young man here, Emmitt Till, was so naive to where he was. He thought he was in Chicago because Chicago probably was a little more freer. If we can talk to white people and, you know, interact or whatever. He thought it was like that. You know, he begged his mum to bring him down to see his cousins, you know, and then it ended in his, like, right, it ended in his death, him being dead. It was no fault of her own. She tried to save him, you know, she tried to offer them money to stop them from taking her son. So it's a very sad story of a young 14-year-old that died. You know, it's a lynching, really. So if you really think about it, within them times, it was that type of time, you know. So to me, you know, things like this is not to be taken lightly, you know. It's no joke at all, because them time they had no freedom. They couldn't voice their opinion. If they voiced their opinion, they'd be dead. You know, they'd be known as being the uppity Negro, you know, and then they will get them. You know, there were stories of NAACP in Mississippi. 3 of them died. I think 3 or 4 of them died while walking or driving down the Mississippi Road. They found them and they had to bury them. Or sometimes they never found them. You know, so those times was very, 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 I mean, it still is that way now. I would not think it would have changed that much over there in that particular state. Come to think about it. Because, like I said, with the young man that got wrapped up in the mat, for instance, that's one death I think happened in Mississippi. But don't quote me. So Emmitt Till was very naive. He's innocent. He was probably being cheeky when he had the photo of the girl in his wallet saying it's his girlfriend, and, you know, being cheeky, you know, ballsy and whatever. Probably she wasn't, but she was just a friend, you know. And that's what sealed his death, basically, in a nutshell. So now me and my articles. I'll take you to another article. So this is a article from Biography. Young Emmitt Till there. So the brutal abduction and murder of 14-year-old Emmitt Till on August 28th, 1955. You know, emerging the civil rights movement. Right, we know who he was. He came from Chicago. So his mother and father, Till was the only child of Louis and Mamie Till. Till's mother was, by all accounts, an extraordinary woman, defying in social constants and discrimination she faced as an African American woman growing up in the 1920s and 1930s. Mamie excelled both academically and professionally. She was the only 4th Black student to graduate from a suburban Chicago high white school, you know, a prominently white school, white community high school. And the first Black student to make the school's A honor roll while raising Till as a single mother. She worked long hours for the Air Force as a clerk in charge of confidential files. Till never knew his father, a private in the United States Army World War II. Till was born in 1941. His parents separated in 1942. 2 years later, Mummy received word from the army that Lewis had executed for willfully misconduct. He was executed for willfully misconduct while serving in Italy. Right, let's see his childhood. Till, who went by the name of Bobo, was born on July 25th, 1941 in Chicago. He grew up in a thriving middle-class black neighborhood on Chicago's South Side. So that's why he said what he said. That he has a friend and he pulled out the picture of the white girl. The neighborhood was a heaven for black-owned business, and the streets he roamed as a child was lined with black-owned insurance companies, pharmacies, beauty salons, as well as nightclubs that drew like the likes of Duke Ellington and Sarah Vaughan. Those who knew Till best described him as a responsible, funny, infectious, high-spirited child. He was stricken with polio at the age of 5. He managed to make a full recovery, save for his he had a slight stammer that remained with him for the rest of his life. With his mother often working more than 12-hour days, Till took on his full share of domestic responsibilities from very young. Emmitt had all the house responsibilities, his mother later recalled. I mean, everything was really on his shoulders, and Emmitt took it upon himself. He told me if I would work and make the money, he would take care of everything else. He cleaned and he cooked quite a bit, and he even took over the laundry. Till attended the all-black McCosh Grammar School. His classmates and childhood pals, Richard Hurd, later recalled, Till was a funny guy all the time. He had a suitcase of jokes that he liked to tell. He loved to make people laugh. He was a chubby kid. Most of the guys were skinny, but he didn't let that stand in his way. He made a lot of friends at McCosh. In August 1955, Till's great-uncle, Moses Wright, came up from Mississippi to visit the family in Chicago. At the end of his stay, Wright was planning to take Till's cousin, Wheeler Parker, back to Mississippi with him to visit relatives down south. When Till was just 14 years old at the time, learned of these plans, he begged his mum to let him go along. Eventually, Till's mother was opposed to the idea. She wanted to take a road trip to Oklahoma, Nebraska, and tried to convince her son to join her with the promise of an open road driving lessons. But Till desperately wanted to spend time with his cousins in Mississippi, and in a fateful decision that gave him impact on their lives and the course of American history, Till's mother relented, let him go. Well, we know about the death, so I'm not going to go in about the death. Okay, so they did an open casket. Till's body was shipped to the Chicago, where his mother opted to have an open casket funeral with Till's body on display for 5 days, and thousands of people came to the Roberts Temple Church of God to see the evidence of the brutal hate crime. Till said despite the enormous pain it caused her to see her son's dead body on display, she opted for an open casket, which is what I said before. The killers now. Now, as I said, the killers got off. The killers got off. Let me see if they wrote any books or scripts on it, or there was documentary. Till Death was called a documentary, and the other one was The Murder of Emmitt Till. So there's documentaries out there too on Emmitt Till's, final days and stuff. So this young man obviously did not deserve what he got. He's very outgoing. And the reason why he said the girl was his friend, obviously, because of where he came from. It was a middle class black family. So, he must have been around that white girl was his friend, at the time, that he said that she was his girlfriend. He might not have meant girlfriend in the same way that he meant girlfriend. He could have meant friend, your best friend, his best friend maybe, because a few people them times had white people as their best friends in most cases. All depends on the background, etc. But I'm just thinking off the top of my head what he said. Maybe he just want to say it to look good around his friends, around the people he met, because he didn't come from there. So, to boost up yourself, he said that maybe, to give an impression, so for it to result in such a tragic way, and because he whistled at the woman as well on top of it. So obviously where he came from, certain dangers wasn't around, so he must have either seen it to do that action as well, because I don't think a young boy would have just done that action just like that. There's many factors to this. You got to really think about why he said what he said and why he did what he did. But at the same time, he's only 14 years old. When they're teenagers, I know from my son particularly, they boost up and they say a lot of things, and they give impressions because they want to make friends, and those times was very hairy times. You couldn't say the wrong thing. You say the wrong thing, they come after you, especially the state, whatever state you're in. Because there's Mississippi, I think was it Carolina, Louisiana, or one of them was another state that had loads of tragics, people, lynchings, all that stuff. But Mississippi's the biggest ones. So, the mother, tried to save him. She tried. She was offering them money. She tried to save her son. She really tried. And they weren't listening. They was determined to do what they wanted to do, to prove a point, to give their justice, or what they thought was injustice, or ignorancy, or whatever, however you look at it. This 14-year-old did not deserve to die, in which way he died. And no matter how long ago it is, right, these things still happen till now. Like I spoke about, once again, another 14-year-old who died at the hands of racial things, a racial incident. Right? They killed him. They run him down and killed him. They was threatening to the threat that's giving him death threats. And that is not Miss, well, it's the UK even, you know. So like this is a very tragic and very sad story, and they still because the men did not get they didn't get the justice that they were supposed to get. You know, them times they had sham, underhanded things going on. You know, loads of underhanded things going on. So you have to research this time span in America history. And Lovecraft, I think, showed a great example of how it would have been, you know, you were going around this casket. For how much days he had his body. So you can imagine the smell as well. He wasn't embalmed. Or maybe he was embalmed. But there was still the smell. People's fainting and all sorts of things. So you have to look at these stories from then because it still goes on now. So I'm not going to waffle and linger on and on and on and on. Like I said, this is the sad story of Emmitt Till. And in fact, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. It's still the same in a kind of way. Okay, we got a little bly, we got houses, which they're thinking that we get it for free and all this foolishness, the ignorant ones. The same thing they're going through, some of them, who's on the lower scale, the same thing we're going through. But they seem to think that we have it good or something. I don't even know. It's the level of ignorancy for me, really. But the same thing goes on. It's going on till now. Your child says something out the way. Big men come after him to prove a point. And the woman lied as well. The woman lied. The fact that the woman lied, she lied. She lived out her life. Oh, let me find a picture of her actually. This woman lied after this boy. Okay, he whistled at you. Okay. Well, isn't that the same thing what happened with the Tulsa massacre, where a young lady screamed out, and all hell broke loose after that? And even though the lady said nothing happened, they still carried on massacring and killing everybody in sight, which is now Rosewood, the movie. This is the same situation. Oh, and also what came into my mind was the one with the lady with the dog, where the man was telling the woman to put the dog on a leash. And then she started ringing the police and almost killing her dog in the process, even though this is old now. But these are all kind of the same situations, the same thing. It's in repeat. It's in repeat. It's so crazy. She is literally, like we will term now, in this day and age, the Karen. She sent her husband after this young man with some other men. And let me see if she ever did take back what she said. Let's see. I know there's a picture of her because I saw her, a picture of her. I need to find it. Oh yeah, let me show you this riddle thing. How is badness. The badness of it, the irony. The irony of it. Now look at that. Riddled with bullet holes. Riddled. And then they had to go and get a bulletproof memorial to the boy because he died on the same spot. So they put a memorial there. And they shot it up. Oh yeah. There's also a TV series about this. I don't know whether, they haven't put it over here. Alright, let me show you the TV series about it. I don't know whether this came out. Let me see when this came out. This was in May 25th, 2021. This was a series, a TV series about the death of Emmitt Till. These are the actor and actress playing the mother and son. No, there's nothing else there. But yeah, this is the actress and the actor that's playing him. Alright, let's move along further now. The sham trial. Oh yeah, and let's see the faces of these gentlemen, even though they showed it already. So these are the two gentlemen dressed in white who killed Emmitt Till. And they got off. But like I said, Mississippi have a long history of blood on the land, the lakes all over Mississippi was the worst place for a person of color to be in. The worst place. They're put in prison for no reason. The mob will come get you. You get lynched. They take away, fingers, bits and pieces of the person, turn them into a coat, turn them into shoes, you name it. Mississippi was horrible. But probably the rest of the Americas was like that too. So That's why most people of color went to Harlem, went to different areas where they can live peacefully and, just live, basically, to come out of that oppressed state. But anyways, I feel like I'm going on and I'm making a speech, and I don't want to make a speech, to be honest. But like I said, it still goes on. This still goes on to this day. Maybe in different ways, different strategy maybe. There's one lady on YouTube, she called it they look for soft targets. That's what they do. They look for soft targets. That's what they do. Emmitt Till was a soft target. And anyway, and most cases in Mississippi, even if a man could fight his way out, he'd be dead anyway. So you don't win any case or anyway. So I'm trying not to go on. Like I said, I'm trying really my best not to go on. But this is it, right here. These two men got off, got paid little money, and they got off. I should even look to see if they're still around. Let's see if they're still around. Or did they make it past 80 or however? Then again, if I can't find it, I will leave it. Hold on, let me. Yeah, sorry about the long pause. There is let me see if I could find the information on the guys. So, are they still alive, or did they live through their lives? Okay, let's see. We can see. The murder Emmitt Till. Ray and Carolyn Brent and J. Million will always be linked to the 1995 murder of Emmitt Till. In the minds of many, they live in history as the trio that got away with murder. Southern Beauty, Caroline Brent, the daughter of a plantation manager and a nurse hailed from Indianola, Mississippi, the nucleus of segregation and supremacist white citizen council, a high school. Let's have to check. A high school dropout. She won 2 beauty contests and married Ray, an ex-soldier. The couple ran a small grocery store, so that's where it all started. But I want to see whether they lived, because that's what we need to know. They were acquitted. So the men was acquitted with $400 to the reporter of two their defense's attorney helped facilitate the interview that published in the Look magazine in January. So they even got published in the Look magazine. So they also, blacks stopped frequently grocery owned both by the Brents and families. The story soon went out of the business went out. The store went out of business. Unable to find work, Roy took his family to East Texas and attended a welding school. His half-brother Joe followed him soon after. Years later, both men would return to Mississippi. John Witten, one of their defense attorneys, told the National Public Radio Soundprint program in 1994 interview that he later regretted defending the case. "I am not proud of it. I wish I had never been associated with it." Roy Brent was also interviewed for the same Soundprint program. Legally blinded and plagued with black trouble, he refused to talk about the case. Even though he was protected by the double jeopardy, he still feared he would have paid for his crime before he died. "Let that goddamn stuff die," Brent said. "Look at what they done with the Beckwith, and now they want to get me. Well, to hell with them. I'm not going to talk about it. Can't ever tell what they might do nowadays. They might change the Constitution." The white supremacist Baron Lee Beckwith was convicted of murder in 1994, 31 years after assaulting a black NAACP field secretary, Magdalena Evers. Embittered, Roy also claimed that his half-brother J.W. got all the money from the Look deal. "A lot of people made a bunch of money off of this. I ain't never made a damn nickel." In 1981, Malim died of cancer of the bone in August 1994. Shortly after the Soundprint interview, Roy Brent died of cancer. No one ever did time for Emmitt Till's murder. And that's the two men getting their faces done. So they died instead of getting justice. So there you have it. They died. They didn't even get a retrial because because of the double jeopardy. And still one of them went out and was assaulting and getting on with stuff and getting away with it as usual. So he never did face time. He never got time or anything. None of them. Yeah, the only justice that kind of happened in a kind of way, people stopped buying from their store because they probably were selling to black people as well. So people stopped buying from the store in a kind of way, which is a form of protest. And then he had to run to Texas. This is interesting, isn't it? It's just so interesting. You cannot say that how, I mean, I didn't see that coming. I thought they would end up in a home or something like that. They died, whether that's their karma or what, because he didn't want to talk about it, what he did. He didn't want to talk about it at all. She, high school dropout, okay? She was a high school dropout, you know? So, I mean, not that that's important, because people drop out of school for all different reasons anyway. But the main fact is, see, you got away with all this stuff. You didn't even make much of yourself. See, you still have to end up running anyway. You didn't even stay in the same place where you think you was running things. You still had to run to Texas. Okay? So I'm not going to really tarry on this, really. I said what I have to say. I'm just going to leave up Emmitt's face. And I just find him so quick, so. Look at him. He was a little chubby chub. You know, little mischievous maybe. But he didn't deserve that. He did not deserve what he got. Because he made a mistake. Because that's what he did. He wasn't streetwise. He didn't know the code of the Mississippi code or whatever. Seen and not heard kind of full, code kind of thing that must have went on around that time. He was a lovely boy, a handsome little boy. You know? Maybe if he did stay up in Chicago, he would have still lived. But he wanted to go see his cousins, which is normal for a boy his age. Absolutely normal for a boy his age. I want to go see my cousins. I want to go and play, because his mum would seem like she was working all the time. He probably wanted little children to play with and stuff. So I'm not going to go on, like I said. The articles speak. The men got off and they died of cancer or whatever else. The lady lived out her time. And this young man, had a premature life. They mashed up his face. They mashed it up. I ain't going to say the posh word. They mashed up his face. Basically, that's what they did. They mashed him up. They disfigured him. And then throw him wherever they throw him. Like rubbish. So I'm not going to linger and talk and ramble on. I'm going to come off now. I'm not just doing this for content, because it's still relevant today, because like I said, this happened to a young man already. It happened to Stephen Lawrence as well. I can name a few, actually. I can really drop a couple names on this one video alone. Being rushed by white people. For what? One young man, once again, I don't know which part he was walking. And they mash was it an axe or something in his head? There's a BBC program about this young man. I can't remember what's it called right now at the top of my head. Because of the colour of his skin. So, like I said, I can list about loads of names off the top of my head. Present day stuff happening. And we ain't even in Mississippi, for God's sake. We're in UK. Even though UK have its own little racial undercurrents. Because the carnival started for a reason. a young man got killed, and to unite, they started a carnival in Ladbroke Grove to unite everybody, because the young man didn't deserve it. I can't even remember the young man's name. I used to remember all this stuff off the top of my head. I didn't even have to look up most things. I would just talk. I'd be drunk and I would just talk the most things. But I'm not gonna go in at it, because hopefully these people will get what the justice still, though these two men are not around, or they got the justice. Stephen Lawrence's parents, Doreen did get the OBE, but she gave it up after a while. I think, and then the Lawrences, because of what happened to their son, their relationship broke down. So, you know, these deaths of children can do a lot. Breaks up families, all sorts of things, because the mother's distraughted. The mother feels the pain. The woman on the video that I put up of John Reed, she cry out. She still feels the pain, even in the vigil when they're singing the songs. You know, he looked like he was a little well-known boy too. You know, so yeah, I'm not gonna go on. Basically, I'm not gonna go on, because if I go on, I'll just be rambling and rambling and rambling. I don't want to ramble. So yeah. So we heard from the cousin himself, the one who was there. The one who was there. And I'm sure there's many other articles that is around that can marry up to what was being said on some of the articles. They marry up together. See, I made sure I didn't go Wikipedia, because Wikipedia sometimes tell me half a loaf, and sometimes you have to look elsewhere. So, with that said, I am going to come off, literally going to come off. So please like and subscribe. I'm not even going to put the ticker over this picture, because I don't think I want to do that. Please like and subscribe and comment, because I'm not doing the video for whatever. I'm doing the video because I feel so. I need to talk on this. Basically, I need to talk on this, so I'm going to talk on it. Okay, so have a good night, a good evening, a good morning, and yeah. So I'll see you. Take care. Bye.